So, good morning again, everybody. I hope you're still in the morning. So, there's this one part of glimmer of hope for us agroecologists in the manifesto, and that's in the green economy section. It's the pathway to sustainable agriculture. And we were very excited that first government to recognize that we need to actually move from where we are and have a pathway, an organized transition to agroecology. And agroecology, you could call it anything, but it's really a change. I said to some chiefs the other day that agroecology is more like traditional agriculture. And really, that's what it is. It's just to look at all the opportunities. At the moment, farming is making us poor. Soils are less fertile each year, water is less each year, inputs are increasing, profits are getting less because the inputs are increasing and the yield is going down. We must find new land. And this is really what we've seen over the last few years is people migrating either north or to the cities, selling talk time pakona. It doesn't really help us. And we've got to get a system which is very attractive and drag people back to the land. That's what I think. And it starts with the soil. This is at Mrs. Piri's farm in Njolwe, and I just picked some soil from the bush about 1 meter away from her field, and then I walked 3 meters into her field and I got the other soil. And that's the difference, right? So one will give us a future, the other one will give us drought, floods, no crops growing, and require huge. At the end, you should be able to answer which one is which. So this is a farm in Kafui that follows the standard FISIP program. The farmer himself has stopped farming, so he rents this land out, and every year a new sucker comes, right? Says, let me hire this land. It looks good, the soil is nice, it's dark, it's almost alluvial soil down there, almost on Kafui Flats, and they plant. They book a tractor because they live in town, they want wangu farming, and then they plant maize, almost inevitably. Every year that I've been there, which is now 16 years, they plant maize. And they use herbicide to kill the weeds, and that's how it looks. So this was after 3 weeks of no rain. The neighbor added more into the maize. People are scared to say we should stop growing maize. Don't stop growing maize, just add more into the maize. Agroecology is about adding more. We talked about diversity. And don't forget agroforestry, integrating deep-rooted plants into your field. So here we have pigeon peas, and we have lines of pigeon peas. You'll see them later on. They're recovered after the drought, and soybeans and beans and maize with pumpkins and climbing beans, and there's some trees there as well. You can't see the trees right now, but really it's just to follow the best farmer, which is God or Mother Nature. Simulate that, and you start getting a really good result. So you can see that whatever rain was there was the same as the neighbor. They both received the same rain, they've both got the same soil, they've got the same climate, and really the difference is the management. So we talk about the management a lot, and how another year, this was 2014, the two farms again. The one we're talking about here received the same rain as yet. It was about 85 millimeters. That's almost 4 inches of rain in about half an hour. It was a cloudburst. Not a drop of rain sitting in the field. And where is that water? It didn't run off. It went down into the soil, which is why he doesn't get a drought later on. The neighbor, all his water went down to the Chanyanya Road there, and we had a problem passing. And there was, after 1 hour, I took this picture in his field, and you can see the water still on top. So if you want a drought, please continue with high input, reductionist kind of agriculture. If you don't want a drought, it is optional. I've proved that. And we don't need a drought. We really don't want a drought. Here's just a quick picture of that's one farm in a drought and a heavy rain. That's the other farm in a drought and a heavy rain. So it should be clear now. On the one farm with maize alone, you're going to get one food. Okay, that did not come from that field. Actually, that one's from an organic field in Jones. But I wanted a picture of maize and I don't have. And this is our field. At the end of the year, there's 5 crops planted, plus there's another 18 crops or plants growing in there, which are also food. Kanunka, you know, all the weeds, plus the agroforestry, the trees, we get pawpaws. So there's 18 foods, plus the 5 which we planted. So we're talking about 25 different foods from one field and 1 feed from the other field. So up to you which one you want. Transition time to move from a FISIP where most people are spending a lot of money and really not making much profit, to through this transition period where you start reducing fertilizer, you start increasing your manure, you start reducing your cost a bit. This can take 3 to 4 years. You can't just suddenly stop fertilizer because your soils are finished. So this thing is how much we dedicate. And we need government on board. At the moment, we are struggling. Because as we show farmers what to do, somebody else comes and says, here's fertilizer. Don't worry about all that. Right? It's holding us back. It's holding us back. It's slowing us down. We want the money. Fire is one of the big things I talk about in every show. This is the effect of fire. Most people in Zambia burn their field. This man had his field burned. He didn't want to burn. He managed to put the fire out here, and this side was not burned. 30 bags per hectare for his soybeans, 74 bags per hectare. Same treatment, apart from fire. Please, let's stop burning. It's really costing us big time. With bush burning, usually we try to burn to make these green shoots. We're not actually creating green shoots, we're exposing them. They're covered with dry, and when the fire comes, it burns off the dry, and it's just showing what was there all along. Once we graze, we also expose those things. The animals will find that grass, but the mulch from the dry grass will keep that moisture. And we see the grass stays green for 3 months. Here it will stay green for 2 weeks. So this is another way of getting, on a catchment scale, much more water into the system. A quick word on, because we think this is the main tool we can use to restore catchment on a catchment level, is to put the animals back together in big herds and then plan the grazing. Okay, it gives us a long period of rest after high impact, after high disturbance. We talked about disturbance, and that gives the time for grass to grow and the disease to die. We have stopped dipping in a pancha. Those of you who came to our show in March, we haven't dipped more than once or twice a year for the last 5 years. And that means we don't have any ticks. Not that we are selfish with our money. There are no ticks. We haven't done deworming for 4 years or 5 years. We've got 500 animals or so, cattle, and there are 57 owners all managing together. We've reduced the cost, we've improved the grass, the productivity is through the roof. This is a great model. It's essentially following traditional agriculture. Olamosi. Yeah, what we've got today is chaos. The grass in between 2 villages will get eaten today by this group, tomorrow by that group, and the next day by this group. It never gets a chance to. So we end up with bare ground. And a disease here, we end up just enjoying life, going through the community's cows. And we've lost 80% of our cattle. So in visual terms, this is what the effect on the environment is. This is when we changed the management in this area. It was trees, but no grass. The grass appeared because the seed bank is in the soil. It needs disturbance, periodic disturbance. Once a year, we try and put the animals in there. If there's no buffalo, we use cattle. 2006, 2013, all the perennials are back, the annuals are back. The trees are looking better. It's all 1st of October century. And you can see now the soil has changed color and the water's back into the system. This is real. And this is now one of Africa's most important exports. What we've learned, and now we are exporting to the rest of the world, is holistic plant grazing. That is a traditional technology. Are we proud of that? Do we know about it? No. We've also exported agroecology. It's Africa that invented agroecology. And the third thing we invented was tree pruning or tree restoration, keeping forests. That is chitemene. You cut a tree, it doesn't die. You manage the shoots, it grows back again. Chitemene is now the main way of reforesting the world. 3 technologies from Africa. Are we selling this at COP? No. We're busy, whinging and complaining there. You're doing too many. Please, let's be proud. This is fantastic. On the money side, there's FISIP, there's this or our field of mixed croppings, and it's much more profitable. But really, the forest, to me, is part of agroecology, where we start really exploiting the indigenous, the 8,000 indigenous plants for honey and for all the different types of mushrooms, gelele, tubers, ngoyos. There's so many. There's 400 forest products. All of these are organic superfoods. And if we market this correct, we're going to become a very much richer country. And instead of burning the grass, let's get animals on there. If it's livestock or wildlife, we convert that into meat. We're going to be billionaires, all of us. So, with those few words, I'll just finish with a simple decision-making framework. So, how do we test a decision? Right? Government proposes or people propose, let's do this. Is it going to take us in this direction environmentally? Or is it going to take us in this direction where the biodiversity, the growth, the abundance, the health, the wealth, the peace, the viable future is? And we've got to start testing these decisions because we're in autopilot. We keep trying the same thing. Fertilizer is now 60 years. It did improve the yields in the beginning, but it has been declining, as Eugene showed you, for 50 years. Now, sooner or later, we must ask the question, is it taking us in that direction or this direction? Both socially, economically, and environmentally. So we suggest that this simple framework to make decisions is really applied to government decisions, policy, and in the end of the day, which future do we want? Does this big industrial farming fit our context? Socially, fails. Environmentally, it fails. There's no biodiversity here. And economically, somebody's going to get rich, but not our people. The future, according to the UN, is small-scale farming. And this really is possible to make it very empowering. Our people already have the knowledge, the indigenous knowledge, which is suppressed in this country, is most of what we need. Economically, you've seen my numbers, and environmentally, it's regenerative. Thank you very much.